Welcome to the Write Your Own Story podcast. I'm your host, Betsy Leonidas, and the founder of the Write Your Own Story company. Girl, I can tell you right now, you are definitely enough. Here we value service, sisterhood, connection, laughter, and that super genuine, keep it real, tell you like it is honesty. My hope is at the end of each episode, you realize you can do whatever it is you dream about and that you are not alone with what you struggle with. I'm hoping that you are snapping and clapping and hell yes in your way through each one of these episodes. So if this tracks with you, let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Write Your Own Story podcast. I am so excited. I actually have 3 ladies with us today. One is very little, only 6 weeks old, but I'm here with Molly and Michelle from The Vessel. And we are here to talk about really for those women who are seeking, but haven't really yet realized that she is actually the one that she is seeking. And for all of our women out there who are feeling, especially this season, but in life, feeling that drained, stuck, unsure where to begin, this episode will definitely make you feel hopefully like someone has finally turned the light on inside, and you feel a little more centered and confident and can keep moving in the right direction. So Molly and Michelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Would you guys mind just kicking off telling us a little bit about The Vessel?
The Vessel is a space where women can explore themselves and get to know themselves as a container, if you will, of the love and the purpose and the desire that they are here to bring the world. And a lot of times what we say is you don't have to be stuck. You don't have to not know. And my passion is gnosis and wisdom design and how we know that we know. That's part of my life's work and my graduate studies. And I love facilitating women in that process. I believe that women don't have to be stuck. They don't have to not know. They already know. And so tapping into that is what The Vessel is all about.
Our original intention for even beginning The Vessel in this whole virtual container was to see wealthy, healthy, vital villages around the world, in-person villages, and people to be gathering with other humans, right? Be in proximity with humans and be the one that, is calibrated to something higher, the thing that you desire, and be the leader in that creation of the village.
We also really value the concept of village, and that is actually not the same as community. So a lot of women think that they're finding their tribe, like they're going to find this group of peer-oriented women where they're going to have a village. And actually village is more, it's broader, it's wider than that. It involves the younger, the older, the people who have need, the people who have plenty,
the people who have different belief systems,
different skills. Yeah. So there's a unity in our diversity when you consider village. And most people are looking for community. They're looking for the vibe, the tribe, like where we're alike and all that stuff.
The curation of this,
online internet, like Instagram life. And that's actually not what we're talking about here.
We go deeper.
Okay. So I absolutely get find your tribe, where are commonalities? How can I surround my people who have similar interests so we can all kind of vibe together? And I absolutely understand what you mean around villages. And I think about, building generations of families and villages. I love the appreciation and the concept around building these villages in a world and a time that we are in. We need this kind of unity, even especially through diversity more than ever. What are some of the commonalities in a village? Is it just literally proximity?
That's a big one.
Proximity is a big one. Logistics is important because the human will never not need to be in proximity of another human. I don't care how good your AI is or whatever device you have in front of you. The fact is that sitting next to someone and being in the energetic space of another human is what we're here for. It's what we signed up for. It's why we incarnated. It's like to be there is the key. And what's happened over the last several years and even decades is that people have lost that ability to be in the discomfort or the edge of growth for yourself when you're around other people. And instead we've sought comfortability, conformity. There's safety in likeness, but actually it's the creating safety in our own bodies in the face of what's not alike that creates sustainability.
I hope everyone just rewinded for 10 seconds and listened to that again. It really of course we appreciate similar energy and interests and commonalities, but as being able to feel centered and whole amongst differences, where no longer differences divide us. They're just differences. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be nice?
It would, and also like it's available to you.
Yes.
It's available to the women, listening. It's something that we experience on a day-to-day basis. Something else that you teach on, Michelle, often is talking about holding two truths at one time. Like you can't have the ability to sit next to somebody and not agree with them, but also know that what they are experiencing is true for them. Yes. And it does not negate your truth and the experience that you have. So there's a big evolution, maturation element to that.
It reminds me of the concept of when small children are exploring words to describe how they feel, and everything hurts.
Everything's ouchy.
Everything's ouchy. And yet they don't have the words for the nuances yet, right? And so as adult women, I find that women do that.
It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of do that. It's like because something's not like them, it's unsafe or wrong.
It's bad.
It's bad. And the duality comes out, and they go to good, bad, right, wrong, because that creates safety. But what they don't understand is that being off balance is the growth edge. And so if you don't know how to navigate the imbalance and use it as fuel and food and nourishment for your growth and development, then everything will hurt. Everything's wrong,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything in your vessel. So I like that. It's kind of the concept of like your vessel is sort of your physical being. But we're talking about sort of what encapsulates on the inside, and then therefore how it reverberates on the outside. And you can hold space that doesn't fit in the construct of what is you defined as safe, when really you can see safety. When you feel safety inside, you can be safe all around. I'm totally tracking and loving this. Okay. Can we break down what it means for a woman to view herself through the lens of her vessel rather than her symptoms, her labels, and her roles?
Yeah. So the way I look at that is just like all of us have a thumbprint, like we have unique fingerprints. The interiority of our being is the same way. It's unique, and it has its own frequency. It has its own way. It has its own uniqueness that I believe is literally begging, and in some cases dying, to come out.
Yeah.
And when you experience you don't know how to navigate your internal and exterior spaces, then there is this almost like it's death. I call it like the death of desire, because we're all born with the seeds of desire in our heart. And most of the time, conformity, I call it the Ruku and Fu, the religion of origin, the family of origin, and the culture of origin, because there's such a tribalness still there with conformity being safety, that we lose track of the development of our uniqueness and how important that is. And so in the vessel, this is what we explore, is the uniqueness of your interior space, of the type of vessel that you are. And we talk about the different types of vessels as well.
We have a couple different types. It's the pressurized vessel, the porous vessel, and the unformed vessel is kind of what we tagline them. And they all have their own expression in their unbalanced state. And then they also have the high expression as well for, being formed and being balanced and being, having no leaks in your exterior.
Yeah. I feel like right now, especially in this period of humanity, that the hunger and the lack of nourishment that we feel has as much to do with the craving of others' uniqueness and the unique expression of our beings as it is food or nature or community. And so I feel like it's actually a real, it actually shuts down creativity and curiosity when we're all alike.
Totally.
Yeah. Agreed. Wholeheartedly. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Or when we're conforming to systems. I couldn't agree more, which I think in our feminine nature, Those are two of the most important things, really, truly for all of humanity. But when we think about like what makes us feel in our feminine is that sort of creativity and curiosity. And when we shut that down to conform, I mean, we could all hop on a soapbox for that one, right?
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
It goes deep into really what makes you human, right? So if we're talking about feminine, you're also talking about the masculine, right?
Sure.
You're talking about
Both.
the interrelation there.
Yeah.
And all of that, and when we talk about being in proximity and or even going all the way into artificial intelligence, it's like what is at the end of the day, what constitutes as humanity? What creates your humanness? What is life coming through you? What is that life force coming through you? What is the opposite of life? It's not death. The opposite of life is not life, right? So it'd be artificial. It'd be sterile environments, artificial intelligence, that kind of thing. That's the opposite of, that's like sucking and draining.
The opposite of human.
Opposite of human.
Wow. That's really, really fascinating. I would have just said the opposite of life is death, but to know that there is this whole version of us that is living in a non-human kind of way that actually, when you say those words and you describe it, I can actually feel my energy drain. Just reflecting on it. So that honestly, that tracks in a major way, but this is also like, this is where we are. Okay. So we've talked about like porous, non-porous. What was the third? Remind me.
Pressurized.
Thank you. What are some of those? I think a lot of women can wrap their heads around what feels like an energy leak. What are some, like, how do, and you guys had mentioned at the top of the show around this notion of feeling stuck. And what I'm trying to do with this is really like understanding what it means to be a vessel. So like women are listening, they're like, okay, conceptually, I get it. I'm encapsulated in a vessel as a life force. How do I know if I feel stuck, but I don't even know what I'm stuck about? How do I start identifying? What does a leak feel like? What does a clog feel like? How do we start sort of like building out this metaphor?
Well, and the types of vessels, the archetypal types that we use are unformed, pressurized, and porous. So those are the three ways we talk about a knot. So for example, most people's brains are wired up to identify from what's wrong and what's in the problem space, not what the potential is, right? So the entry point to what's going on is usually always in the problem that you're having or the problem that you're trying to solve.
The symptom,
right? And our minds are trained to diagnose and treat now. We've been brainwashed by allopathic mindset, right? To diagnose and treat, and then diagnose and treat again, and diagnose and treat again, right? So we never get to the point where we're focusing on the move toward or what we want. We're still always looking backwards going, why is this happening? Or trying to make meaning over stuff that is just like spinning a wheel, right? Yeah, absolutely. So back to your question, which restate that question for me again. It had to do with go ahead.
Yeah. Well, how do you know, like, when you feel like something's off in your vessel, whether that be an energy leak or you feel like you can't really get any input, you feel clogged or whatever it might be. I was trying to think of what the opposite of leak would be. But how do we start identifying what that feels so women can start being a little bit more connected to who they are as a vessel?
Well, the identification part is going to be unique to every single human, right? Everybody that has their own experience with the way that they interact with the world, the way that their interior is set up to interface with the world. The thing that we really focus on in the vessel and all of Michelle's offerings is resourcing as a foundational principle for being able to have enough energy to recognize and be aware of where your energy is leaking. And so I don't know if you want to expand on the resourcing element, but I feel like that's a huge pillar and piece in the recognition of where you may be leaking.
Yeah. So within the vessel community, we have multiple course offerings, and one of them is called Generative Biohabits. And that addresses basically the meat suit of our human experience. These things you cannot not do these, not connect with these, and still be human. It's part of being human. So in Generative Biohabits, we talk about charging up your vessel. And through that, a lot of times these questions, like the one you just mentioned, is how do we, plug the leaks, is that still is like trying to address the problem. So what we're trying to get toward is self-knowledge, gnosis, and self-expression, right? And so when you create enough energy in your human to be able to do what you're here to do, then the question changes. So you're not asking the same problem-based question anymore. You're not on the witch hunt to find what's wrong. You're here to explore what's right and what's good about your design and the way you are in the world. So it's a different question at that point. And so we don't go in like trying to grid out like where all the leaks are. We actually start by ensuring that the boat's going to float. It's not gonna sink, right?
Yeah.
So we make it that way from the beginning because every person has that potential.
I have to tell you, I'm literally obsessed with my Aura Ring 4. Honestly, my Apple Watch was way too much noise for me. Stand up, sit down, you have a meeting, you're late, your steps are low, breathe, all the things. But this little ring has been an absolute game changer. It doesn't just track my sleep, it helps me actually rest better. Every morning, I get insights into my recovery, my readiness for the day, and whether my body needs more downtime. It even tracks my steps, my cycle, and literally so much more. If you're someone who loves data, cares about your health, and also loves cute jewelry, this ring is for you. This is a gentle reminder, backed by science, that rest is just as important as hustle. Unlock this powerful tool for better sleep, less stress, and smarter recovery with Aura Ring 4. Use my link in the show notes to get 10% off your Aura Ring today. Okay, so if I'm understanding that correctly, it is like, let's focus on what is going right or what is working well so we can continue to feed those areas because that's a great energy source or whatever. And that, but if someone is also feeling deficient in some way or, just not feeling well or feeling unsatisfied or feeling lost, how do you help?
Yeah. Yeah. So what Michelle was saying is we started the foundation, right? We make sure that all the basics for your humanity and for your charge and your energy system, they're on. And then from there, we're going to ask you, who are you? Who are you? Like, what do you know about yourself? How do you know that you know? What are your indicators?
And so once you've got an idea of your uniqueness, which we teach this in one of our classes too, is there's tools you can use to kind of get a handle on that. Because what we find is that a lot of women are mimicking other women. So they look like online and they're like, oh, sure, I like that. I'll put this on. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying on other people's clothes. They're trying on other people's identities. Mm-hmm. They're actually living more in a fantasy creation than what they're creating. Mm-hmm. And that's where the deficits come up. They're like, what am I missing? Why is this wrong? And it may not be wrong. They just don't know how right it is for them because they don't know themselves. So we talk about human design and we talked about a couple of other things in there as well. And then also we teach something called the vessel process, which a lot of women do not understand how a feedback loop works. So for example, how to look at something and then know where to push it on it or change it or amplify something or take it away and then evaluate what information comes back to you from that. So sure, we teach the creation of an identification and manipulation, if you will, of feedback loops.
Mm-hmm. And everyone's feedback loop is individual to them. And I think that's what is a beautiful part about the village is being able to recognize what is yours and what is not yours, right? In relationship to the proximity of the people that you're with.
And what I tell women all the time is that most of the time, like 95% of the time, anything that you find online, as far as a course or a information, like information overload, right? It doesn't create wisdom. Innate wisdom comes from inside, but you have to know yourself in order to be able to pull from that. Mm-hmm.
It's the experiential piece.
The embodied piece. Mm-hmm. And so women look at what they see and assume that that's something that they can take and do, but it actually doesn't come from an internal place. It doesn't come from the original spark, the original flame, which is you. And I tell people all the time, it's like 95% of what you see is somebody else's how. And that works for them and it's good for them. But if you don't know your way, then you're going to be always looking at someone else's how and wondering why it doesn't work. I use air quotes here, like, why isn't this working? And I'm like, well, sis, that's because it's not yours. Let's go to your closet and try on your clothes and do it your way, and then get a different response, information, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, people feel that way around a lot of things. The clothes example I realized is absolutely just an example, but let's say I love the idea of people are like, why isn't this working out for me? What if someone is saying that about their job when they're like, why hasn't this clicked yet? Or why isn't this working out with me? Maybe even if so this show has a lot of entrepreneur listeners. So if people are in those early 0 to 5 years and the profitability hasn't come pouring in yet, because that takes time, but they're in that feeling of lack and like, why has this not worked out yet?
Yeah.
I realize everything is individual, but that's a lot of people listening right now are like, yes, that is my question. What would you say to them?
Those are my one-to-one clients.
Yeah. And those are your people that find you.
They find me. Those are the people that find me, because when we get into the sauce of it, then sometimes what they're doing or the business they've created absolutely has nothing to do with who they are. And they're just trying to do somebody else's model in their name and in their brand. And I see this all the time. And I tell people all the time, it's like, the demise of the course is near. It's like, if you've got a course, then we're walking a thin line. You're on thin ice, basically, because very saturated. And also we've reached a point where, and I deal in frameworks, right? So if people step into my world and I'm not giving them any hows, I'm helping them figure out what their process is and who they are. And then if there's a framework there, they can do it. But a lot of times, if there's not, then they may shift gears a little bit with what they're doing. And that's where, because everybody's looking for the money, right? That's where the money will be. But a lot of entrepreneurs are actually just repurposing and repackaging information that's been available. But there's always an arc with that in the collective. And when we come to the end of that arc, then it's time to reorganize and reorient and readjust. And people are like, I don't even know how to do that.
Okay. I'm not sure I totally track. So I can understand that. Let's say, I've started a business. I'm like, okay, she also has a business. I'm going to observe how she does it. I'm going to reverse engineer it so that I can get off the ground and running. But it hasn't clicked yet. You're saying that by watching someone else in the way that they do it, and reverse engineering means that it's not yours and that's not your path. Or are you saying you chose the wrong business?
But could be both.
Could be both. We're also saying recognize your feedback.
Right.
What information are you receiving from that when you say it's not clicking?
Right.
What does that mean to you? And are there things that you know about yourself and that you know about your gifts in the world or your purpose here on the planet that need to be calibrated? Versus continuing on with someone else's steps and continuing the story of, hey, this doesn't work. And then even further back than that, how is your physical body? How is your electrical potential and pulsing throughout your system? Are you tapped into your creative energy by having enough resources online to actually access the awareness of the information you're receiving accurately? So I think that's where we go, is like foundation of being human first. Secondarily, your creative impulse. Third, what is your unique imprint in the world? And then fourth, let's talk about frameworks. Let's talk about how the information you're receiving from the actions that you're taking.
Yeah. Okay. When people are like, okay, I can't really hear the information I'm just stuck. I can't hear the information. What are your reactions and thoughts and advice for that?
Yeah, we go back to our generative biohabits course for that, for number one. And so it's your connection to the land, your connection to your village, your people, your connection to the sun, your connection to God, essentially, right?
That's the BioWild framework. I have a trademark framework that I teach in a course called Rooted Families that is called it's a compassionate model that it's a framework where people step in and define basic things like your values, your desires.
Sure.
we connect all those things together. And then from there, you begin to create what it is that you actually are here for, not mimicking off of the people around you. But you can only do that from a place of honesty and clarity. And the clarity actually comes from your biological interface, which is your body. That information's in your body. It's connected to your lineage, your ancestry. It's in your bones. And so how you get in touch with that information, the way that you do that is unique to you. And it's also connected to an ancient future story.
Sure.
It's
I mean,
over a period of time. Yeah.
I think a lot of women are feeling a little disconnected from being able to hear their body. Can you describe what, I know it's unique to everybody, but like categorically, what does it feel like to get that information in your body? How do you know what is true versus noise?
That's a great
signal
question.
versus noise is a big deal. And a lot of that has to do with, some of that has to do with brain function, honestly. And I feel like, brain health, we talked about that in the generative biohabits, what signals brain and what are you doing in your environment to facilitate healthier brain and all of those things. And so what I find is that women who are not, who cannot like dial into that, right? Then what's happening is there's a lack of certain things. And this is in the bottom of the pyramid of stability within the generative biohabits framework. And so connecting to the quantum biological interface in the ways that we teach at the bottom of the pyramid, usually the lights begin to turn on and they begin to hear information differently and they'll be able to sort it differently as well.
Can you give some examples of what that might be?
Yeah. So it's sunlight, it's grounding, it's being connected to the earth. It's your mineral intake. It's your, we talk a lot about in our Vessel Village, one of the big pillars for women to shift and actually create more of a channel for the signal versus the noise is getting their boobs in the sun. Like just literally getting the parts of your body that have been unseen charged up by the medicine of the sun, right? And so it's like all the bottom of the pyramid things for the most part are free.
Yeah.
And things that we don't do because we are in these boxes. We're in this convenience era. We're in this industrialized space and also in a consumptive place too, right?
Very much, yes.
So, that something outside of us has the information, the answer, or the what, or the how, but actually it's all within us. So like a well-resourced vessel
PDF. We can actually link that there.
We can link it here.
And we have a lot at the bottom of the pyramid.
We have a lot of the practical applications of that for free. And so we'll have to share that here.
Yeah. Some of the things that you were describing, Molly, sound almost like a reset of the nervous system, where you're like, okay, just ground, connect to the energy of the earth, like, be able to, and, for those of us who have had, everyone has had a moment where they just go sit outside and sit in the sun for a second. And all of a sudden you feel more peace. You feel like you feel all the swirl slow down. But yet you're more energized in like a peaceful way. I think we can all sort of imagine and remember what that feels like. And so when I think about these women who are like, like before our call, you guys were so gracious and let me start 30 minutes later because I had not an emergency, but one of my children, because of a busing situation, didn't have a ride home from school. So of course I'm like, I don't want to disappoint you guys. I'm not letting my son walk home 2 miles in the rain. And so I was like, I'm coming to get you. These women will give me grace. But of course that got me all riled up. So when I think about, a lot of women live in that state of being like, we all feel like we're being chased like a bear, but we're all just trying to find 2 shin guards to go to soccer practice.
Right.
And,
I like that example.
Yeah, right. It's true. But I do feel like I'm being chased by a bear and I'm like, wait a minute. We're just going to karate. All is well. But
so the thing about that, what you just said is like, I can hear it now. A woman says, she hears what you just said. Like, you're like, oh, just get outside, breathe the ground, connect, put your feet on the ground. And she's like, yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask questions like, did you take your contact lenses out?
Oh, interesting.
Did you put your glasses on your head or did you have your sunglasses on? How much clothing did you have on? Are you able to get cold outside? Are you cold tolerant? No, you're not.
Did you have your cell phone with you on you?
Yeah, were you looking at your cell phone while you did it?
Mm-hmm.
That. It's these little bitty nuances.
Sure.
Right. And
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, like, I ruck 5.5 miles most mornings with 20 pounds. I live at 4,000 feet. I walk 1,300 feet down and 1,300 feet back up. And so I already live in an oxygen deprived environment, and I go literally bust it on this mountain, multiple times a week. Right.
Yeah.
So several months ago, I decided that I would get ahead on my day, and I would go ahead and answer my groups in the mornings while I was doing that. My eyesight took a tank, like
from being on your phone,
from being on my phone in the morning like that.
Interesting.
And I was like, ooh. So I messaged my EA, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to check in. She's on Central Time, so I'm not going to be checking in until I get back from my walk.
Sure.
And so I walk without my glasses, right? And I've almost run into deer and all kind of crazy stuff without like being able to see in the dark, right? Yeah. And so the reason I point that out is because that's a feedback loop. I know exactly what's happening. It's not that my eyes are getting bad. It's just that I'm not using them in a correct way that helps me gain. I'm draining. And gains and drains are something it's one of my copyrighted things I use in teaching is how to calculate gains and drains. And so most of the time what's happening is that the drains far outweigh the gains, but unless you know what that cycle is, you won't make the changes because you're not aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think certainly not to oversimplify, but for sake of kind of like bubbling things up, it sounds like it's the ability to just like strip down to simplicity and to slow down enough to be able to identify your drains throughout the day. If you slow up enough that you're like, wow, that really drained me, or wow, I'm actually safe, but I don't feel safe. Why is that? Like having those reflection moments. Is that the feedback loop that you're talking about?
Well, feedback loops can come in all sorts of things, right? Children are a great feedback loop. Like Michelle said, her eyesight was a feedback loop for a moment, right? So it can be really anything that you're interfacing with. And the point really, like something that we teach on a lot in the vessel is a concept you coined called the quiet life. And women are so in their consumptive era, they're in their consumptive action that they cannot go slow to go fast. They don't know what that means. They don't know what slowing down actually is because they've never had an experience with it. And so even going slow, but more so practically stripping away your inputs, cleaning up your input environment. So what are you being input with, right? So it's like, your social media feed, your news feed, your mommy talk, your mommy gossip, what food you're intaking, where you're driving, I don't know, like those kind of inputs, really assessing those, taking a true audit of what is serving you, what is not serving you, stripping some of that away, being a little bit quiet. And then the feedback loops become relatively loud.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes that the way you said that makes total sense. I'm also thinking about, we've talked a lot about connecting to be able to hear the wisdom in your body, sort of decluttering the brain and letting that, be its powerful source that it can be versus just sitting in the problem solution era and sitting in fear. Now I want to shift us, if you guys can hang with me, to be when our bodies are feeling like physical symptoms. I think a lot of women, I'm 44, and this is a tricky hormonal time for sure, but I think a lot of women, I've read that immune issues tend to be with women more. It like over indexes in women considerably. I don't have the facts on me, but I want to say it was like 70%, north of 70% of those who have autoimmune disease are women. So my point being is that I feel like often women just keep on humming along, trotting through life. I call it mom trotting. We're all just like mom trotting, trying to get to the next thing on time through life, and are ignoring the symptoms that our body is giving us as feedback. What are your thoughts on like, how do you actually care for the as you said, what did you call it? The meat skin that we are in. Meat suit that we are in.
There's like a couple threads there. There's like the martyr thread. There's the reintroduction of the trad wife. And then there's also the convenience thread that you could take all three of those lenses to kind of answer that question. But
I'm laughing because I've had four near-death experiences. And my last one was very much related to the unawareness that I had with my own body. Right. And so, looking back at that now, even using the knowledge and the wisdom that I have of my own body, looking back, I'm like, oh, I know exactly where that went sideways. Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, the other point of that is autoimmune issue is a light deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
It's light deficiency. It's not enough sun in the eyes, on the body.
Well, that's where I was going to go with all three of those threads, right? So that martyr piece of like, I got to be inside doing all the things for all my family. I got to do everything. I have to be a super mom.
Drop the plates.
Drop it. Your tradition, your introduction of the trad wife era. Most of the women were inside. They were inside doing like, soaking the oats and, doing all these really.
That was me in the 90s. I'm 60, and people tell the story about the hormones and all that. I'm like, doesn't have to be that way. I glazed through, like just sailed through menopause.
Yeah.
No problems whatsoever. Not a single symptom.
And
so I don't look at it as, that we're going to have this rocky road, starting in our mid 40s. I don't look at that at all that way.
And you did a huge, after your last near-death experience, you did a huge re-inventory of the way that you were living, right? So less time inside, more time playing, more time being in your creative flow, less time being behind a screen or being in a kitchen or, being the PTO, whatever. None of that's wrong. And do you have the supportive faculties behind you to maintain that? And that comes back to the gains versus drains conversation that Michale has.
Okay. That makes sense completely. And it's like, don't do things just because you should. I always say should. In my life, should is a red flag. That just means I need to stop and pause and be like, is this for me or am I doing it because I should? For the most part, like I love the concept of like getting outside more and putting things down in the kitchen. And it's just a balance. Absolutely. In this modern day and age, but I love conceptually to be like, you don't have to spin all the plates. If something feels wrong, slow down and figure out what feels wrong and why.
100%.
Yeah.
And further than that, know who you are and how you were
the way
that you do
are in the world.
Yeah. So you drop some things. Maybe, human design has different energy types. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but like our projectors that we have in our groups, we're like, sister, you need to hire some housekeeping. You need to ask for some support with the laundry and then go take a nap. And go take a nap outside while your kids are playing around, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So knowing your way.
Really practical with it.
Knowing your way.
And that's correct for one type. Correct for me is going hiking in the woods and doing 10 miles with 20 pounds. That's
getting the energy output.
Getting the energy output. That's correct for me. So it's going to look different person to person. And the respect there is the key, because this is the problem is we take other people's suggestions and advice and think, oh, that's a great idea. But actually it may not be the way that your body's wired up.
Yeah. Joy Creative Shop is one of my very favorite female-founded businesses. Steph, the founder, is not only a dear friend of mine, but a woman I truly admire as a female business owner. We even had her on the podcast. Go back and listen to our episode, Making Space for Every Woman's Success, if you haven't yet. At Joy Creative Shop, you'll find paper products we all love, personalized notepads, cards, list organizers, and the cutest wrapping accessories that make any gift extra special. Whether you're looking for thoughtful teacher holiday gifts, a housewarming present, or just a little something to keep yourself organized, Joy Creative Shop has you covered. And because you're part of the Write Your Own Story community, you'll get 10% off your order with the code Betsy10. Head to joycreativeshop.com and add a little joy to your everyday. Okay, for a real doozy for everyone who's listening, I think a lot of people get lost in motherhood. Even though it is like the most beautiful thing, it does become quite the long to-do list, as we've talked about. When you keep saying, okay, let's go back to the root of who you are and how you show up in the world, what do you say to women who are just like, I don't know how to describe myself besides the things that I do. I work. This is my job. This is my motherhood. These are my children. These are the activities that I like. What is like a fill in the blank kind of thing when you are like, who are you?
Well, I can share a recent story actually, where I love motherhood. I love birth. I love pregnancy. I love all of those things. And I still have my learnings and my lessons in the evolution of who I'm going to become as a mother. And recently I had a baby 6 weeks ago. We had our second child, and I decided to tandem nurse my 2-year-old and continue nursing, obviously, my newborn.
Mm-hmm.
And something that Michelle had really brought to light was some of my resistance around the tandem nursing. Like, I wanted it, and I didn't have clarity on how I was going to do it because I didn't decide in that scenario how I was going to show up as a mother. All I knew was I was going to move away from the strategy that my mother utilized, right? Which was, my sister and I were born 14 months apart. I was older. And so around like 5 months, my mom weaned me to, have, and that is correct for many women across the country. And I'm like, totally respect that choice. And I wanted to do it another way. So the only thing that I knew was like, I'm going to do this, but I didn't decide like, how are you going to do it? What is that going to mean about you? How are you going to mother? How are you going to step into this? How are you going to have the resources for that? How are you going to have the support for that? Do you have the boundaries and the standards that you want to instill in your son in the scenario of how he's going to interact with you in the nursing realm? And so I had my idea, and Michelle was like helping me calibrate all this. I had my idea of who I was as a person, but I truly didn't know who I was individually as a mother, aside from what my mother's example was, right? So stepping into, and even on social media, right? Like, I'm like, oh, tandem nursing, like it looks so beautiful. Oh my gosh, these women are goddesses. Oh, they have 2 babies on their boobs, And then in the reality of it, it's like, oh my gosh, like building up some resentment and just these emotions, flooding me whenever my son wanted to nurse and he's wanting to nurse more because the milk is amazing. And so I had this whole moment of, oh, okay, who and how are you going to show up as yourself and as a mother? You get to decide.
Absolutely. And it sounds like what you're saying is that you also get to decide how you show up in categories of your life. Like yes, intrinsically, who am I, right? Like that's your soul's to answer, but what does that look like as a mother in certain scenarios, right? Like, and what, my children are 9, 9, 12, and 14. So the mother I was when they were teensy tiny and the mother I am now has evolved. But for the most part by my rules and way. So I think that's really cool. Like, it feels less daunting to be like, who am I? What does that mean? How does that translate? Am I doing my soul's purpose? To be able to break it down and be like, who am I in this scenario today? Does it feel true? Do I have the support? What do I need for tomorrow? Kind of thing. I like that you able to break it down into certain buckets just to like, versus it being so existential that you're like, I don't know, man.
And in the sea of motherhood, right? So you're getting lost in the sea of motherhood. And what you come back to is you filter your decisions through your own integrity, your own value system, right? And then also the resources that you have available.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, integrity, value system, and resources you have available, I think is a really beautiful, simple structure to be able to filter a lot of things through. That's wonderful. Okay, well, this is absolutely fascinating. When we talk about, okay, this is a question I want to ask. Women often confuse being surrounded by people with being supported. I think this goes back into our gains and drains. What distinguishes true energetic support versus simply being connected, especially online?
Support isn't always going to be validation. So, for example, if Molly's showing up and I know she's out of integrity with herself, I'm going to say something.
Sure.
I'm going to, if she's actually not getting to the place behind the problem, I'm going to say something. I'm going to be like, you're not there, sis. Let's, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Because my philosophy is that you actually do want to do all things the way you do one thing. You don't want to have it separate in different categories of your life because that's too much static. That's confused. That's noise. Is not being consistent across all of your.
How you do one thing is how you do all things.
All things.
Yeah.
Like the way you are in all things. And so what I find, especially in online communities, is that they're still very problem focused. This is what's wrong, looking for the thing to fix it. give me the information I need to fix it. And they
Yeah.
leave body out of it, and they leave their experience out of it, right? And so I feel like the energetic piece is reflecting back that person has their information, and that they can actually pull that through rather than looking for people to give you answers. So I feel like that's part of the difference right there. What about you?
With support and
Yeah.
being surrounded. Yeah, I would say the support piece to me is the individuation, right? So versus being surrounded in a group of people, you can be surrounded all day, but
Sure.
having true support is knowing your edges, your literal physical edges, right? Your growth edges, knowing your growth edges, knowing your emotional edges, and then having someone, calling in someone, inviting someone in, pursuing someone that's going to be a mirror clean enough to be able to reflect back to you when you're out of your boundaries or out of your integrity.
Yeah,
or
I
out
feel
of
like
your
from
edge.
just commiserating and validating, then that's not actual support. So when our village has called for support, and one of us, both of us, it could be one of us, both of us, shows up, then we know that other person well enough to know what their values system is. We know them at a you know, in a as a whole being. We know what they value. We know what they believe. We respect that. We honor that, and we're going to be available to help them, like, get the resources that they need to be able to bring themselves through. That's, I think, really key.
There's in the Germanic healing modality, the origins of that whole GNM premise came from this village in Germany who would have these healing, they called them like healing nights on Tuesday nights, and they would all get together as a village, and they would literally just help each other find the resources that they needed. So they would be resources to each other. So it wasn't about like, you know, like, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through it. It's like, no, like, let's help. What do you need? Like, let's help find and network and organize in a way that you're going to get your need met.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of the support.
I think that's really important because, for example, if we did that and you guys, like, I was like,
we do that.
Yeah, we do that. And like, if I was off, you know, kilter, and I'm like strung out or whatever, and I'm like, gosh, you know, I really need a few meals in the refrigerator. And then you didn't ask me like what I need, like, what does that mean? Like, what kind of food do you need? And you brought me what you eat. It's probably not going to go well, right? Because I don't eat the way that the young nursing moms eat. I'm 60. I eat a different way, right?
Sure.
So it's a spiritual code of doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's what that means.
I like that.
That's what that really means. It doesn't mean that she's going to do to me what she needs.
Yeah.
She's going to do as I need. And that's what we do in the village. And that's a scriptural code.
I think that is also such a great point of reflection, to be like, are you just pushing, this sounds more negative than I mean it to be, but are you pushing your agenda versus, versus what is their actual need?
It's a mark of maturity, though, to be able to walk into a space and not push your agenda.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
growth. That's maturity. It's like, okay, I see where you are. I see who you are. I see where you are. I see that you're in this particular space of life. I'm not going to assume and make the wrong assumption that you need what I need, or I can give you what I have and it be okay. We've got to do a little bit more calibration there.
Yeah. That makes me think of, you know, partnership and marriage. And, you know, let's say you get married young and you're in it for the long haul and you continue to evolve over time. Like, when you are, how do you see this work in marriages where people are really trying to evolve and build a life together?
You want to share your issue?
Well, we're learning through that. I'm newly married, right? Like going on 4 years. And Michelle has been she has been our captain, you know, helping us navigate what she calls her programs True North Woman, True North Man, and then True North Couples. And she's helped us truly calibrate what is our true north, and the way that my husband and I we have a really unique design together. We have a really unique blueprint together. And the way that we're going to navigate that is outside of, you know, the culture of origin, the family of origin, the religious of origin. Like that program goes in deep, specifically in sex, marriage, union, all of money, right? All of those kind of categories. And being able to, one, recognize, you know, who you are and your gifts that you're going to give to the world, and then how you have come into a match with that other person. Because a lot of times that person's going to amplify your, you know, your partner just amplifies your pattern of what you don't like about yourself, essentially.
Basically.
And I mean, other things too, right? All the good parts.
Totally. Right. But they are your biggest mirror. Yeah.
The icky parts come up, right? And so how are you going to, one, accept that? And then also, how are you going to accept the, you know, the invitation that you received when you joined and you created life together and you created this new entity essentially in marriage together? How are you going to handle that? And for us, it's like we have to have a lot of resourcing. We call it resourcing when we talk about charging the body. We have to have a lot of energy online right now to maintain, you know, 2 under 2 or whatever, tandem breastfeeding, also running businesses, also looking at each other and being like, hey, I love you. Yeah, like, I love you. So like, let's chat. Let's touch each other, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. So I think, one, obviously it's going to be unique to everybody, but Michele's been an integral part in us, like really recognizing our, I'm going to say our true north versus, you know, the compass north.
I think one of the things that we end up unpacking the most in couples container is the tendency to follow the patterns of the Rufu and Ku, the religious, you know, religion of origin, family of origin, and culture of origin, related to the marriage dynamics and also mothering dynamics. And we're at a very pivotal place in the human timeline where the systems that got us here are not going to take us forward.
Yeah.
And so all of that feudal, FEUDAL, feudalist, you know, very
explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So the feudal model was the king and queen, you know, basically the village model where we all lived on land that belonged to some extension of the king, right?
Yeah.
And so there were principles at play there that kept everything running and rolling, right? So we knew whose children were who and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so all of that has rolled away now. And literally people, I see this all the time, especially with the masculine, they're like, well, what do we do now? Well, I don't understand. The game's changed and no one informed me. And I'm like, you're right. I'm so sorry, because there are initiations missing and other things that happen with the growth and development of the masculine that aren't happening anymore. And men are literally like, I don't get it. I don't know. I don't understand. And there's just a lot of like immaturity there.
Their emotional stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Interesting. Absolutely. Okay. Well, I know that we are getting close to the top of the hour. You know, what would you want women to hear or take away sort of at the end of the show around her vessel and her worth and her capacity before, you know, as she's closing out this conversation? What do you want her leaving thinking about?
You are perfect as you are, and you are complete. You are not broken. You do not need to be fixed or healed or anything else. You just need to know yourself and resource your vessel. I would say that's it.
That's the premise.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Really, like, again, challenging sort of the social constructs that exist today and how they can really drain our energy. And I love the concept of drains and gains. And I love this bottom of the pyramid that we talked about for recharging and really kind of getting the space and the grace and the peace to be able to to listen to our own internal wisdom. Because as you said, we are all knowing and have the answers within us. And you know, also honoring the fact that there are tensions that exist in our world that is part of humaning. And so how do you continue to maintain your integrity
in spite of the tension?
Yeah, as part of the tension. And you know, that's when we talk about those growth edges, is like the ability to still feel safe and complete on those edges of growth and discomfort is really where, honestly, the world can be a much better place if we can all sit in discomfort and I call that staying still and still staying. Yeah, absolutely. Do not run and retreat. Goodness.
It's the ability to stay in when things get tense and how to create with chaos and tension. I talk a lot about that in True North Woman, but creating in chaos and tension is fabulous. Once you get that, you're like, whoo, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. I love it. I love it. Any last words, any like headlines around what it means to create in chaos and tension? Because I think a lot of people are, I got you on the chaos and tension part. How do I tap into their creation?
Plenty of it, and there's more to come.
There's plenty of it, especially for the woman, right? The woman has the childbirth initiation. That is chaos theory in motion, right?
Oh, yeah.
There is so much happening. And how do you navigate it? You're not the passive passenger. That's kind of like the saying there is like, you direct that, you're directive in that. And same thing whenever we're in the household. And this is my learning right now too, is like in the household, you are the anchor of your home. You're the emotional anchor.
Emotional leader.
You're the leader and the energetic anchor. And so you get to dictate and direct that as well. And you get to have your learnings with that as the woman of children and being in union there. So it's available to everyone.
Yep.
And you get to decide how you want it to go.
It's amazing. All right, ladies, if people want to be able to connect with you and your work, how do we find you?
We're on Instagram mainly at the Vessel Village. And we have another enrollment period of our virtual Vessel community opening January 31st, 2026. So I'm not sure when this episode will come out, but the enrollment period lasts for a month. And then we close it. So we open it three times a year. And we have some really cool courses coming in 2026. We have a friggin' arsenal already of information and material. But in 2026, we have one that's our community is very excited about. It's called the Purity Purge. And so we're going to be unpacking, purity culture and what it means to be tapped into your sensuality. Sensuality, sexuality, all of that. So we're to walk women through that process.
Incredible. Thank you for all the work that you do. Clearly, you guys are incredibly passionate about it, which is just like this most beautiful energy that you have shared with everyone today. So I really appreciate your time.
Well,
thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Well, that's the end of this episode, but promise me, you won't stop here with whatever it is you're feeling or dreaming about. I hope you leave today feeling empowered to live life just as you see fit. If this podcast was helpful to you, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on whatever platform you're listening on. I genuinely just want to help women live the life they dream about. So if this type of content tracks with you, subscribe to this podcast or visit our website, writeyourownsstory.co, to download digital courses or to grab a journal and a mug to just dream in and dream with. It's your life, lady. Do you. And just remember, I'm rooting for you and you've totally got this.